Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 101, the 95-yard line, recorded on Thursday, July 2nd, 2020. From Zenatta Consulting, I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt. And let's get right on into the news.
We are going to start off with Orchestly, an app that we have never done anything with. But that may change, Tyler, because now they are rolling out a whole bunch of step-by-step tutorials that will basically guide you on the basic concepts and kind of how to do some basic automation using Orchestly. So I'm excited. I think this is maybe maybe we're not the only ones not using it, and they wanted to drive some adoption. So I think this is a good step in that direction.
Yeah, and Orchestly, for those who haven't spent a lot of time kind of playing with it or haven't heard much about it, is basically Zoho's standalone application for building out business workflows and processes. So basically, an example that is commonly brought up for Orchestly is something like a purchasing approval process. Right, so someone could submit a request through some type of form from the IT department, and maybe they need that to get approved by a couple stakeholders. So you can kind of pass things along all just through Orchestly and handle that approval process. Now, one of the kind of cool things about it is that you can trigger deluge functions and other workflows along each step to kind of tie it into some of the other applications. But oftentimes, at least for us so far, we've found that a lot of the times these types of workflows can be built inside of the applications that people are already using, right? Like the CRM or through books. So we haven't quite found that kind of magic work or use case where it really makes a lot of sense to spin up a totally separate application, right? It's like if someone needs to approve an invoice, that probably could get approved inside of books, which is kind of the more natural place to look for it. But I could definitely imagine a case where, you have people who might not be interacting with the CRM or not be interacting with books on a day-to-day, and they could just use Orchestly to kind of approve or move things forward without having to dig into any of the specific apps themselves.
Yeah, I mean, these are pretty nice little tutorials too, and I think it'd be good to take a look at them and dive in. But I agree with you. I just don't think we found that big use case yet, right? Where if you're going to do a blueprint, then you're doing it in the CRM or doing it over in Desk. But I mean, you're not really seeing it kind of flow across everything else at this point in time.
Not quite yet.
So, not quite yet. All righty, and then moving on, Zoho Forms has added enhanced date fields. Now, this is kind of neat that they're really looking at people that are doing bookings and signups and things using a form that you've built in Zoho Forms. And so they've really added some nice little features here. As you can say, your week starts on. What day of the week do you want it to start on? What days are allowed? What are the allowed dates? So you've got a whole bunch of new little filters you can add to your date field to really modify what you're showing the end user. So when they look at it, it's kind of guiding them down where they need to go, and they're not clicking on a wrong date, or they're not being flooded with useless information.
I think that's definitely nice. And yeah, you kind of highlighted it, that I think their imagined use case here is for booking, reservations, things that you might want to have happen on a workday. Right, so being able to get a little bit more control and prevent people from putting in options that you don't want to allow, right? Because if someone does book on a Saturday, you've got to get in touch with them, you got to reschedule, right? It adds some additional work, right, that you can prevent if you just control the input a little bit. So definitely a nice change for Zoho Forms.
Yeah, it's great, and I like the allowed days is a ton of stuff here. It's funny, they're putting things in here that just a lot of booking apps don't even have. It's kind of I really like the detail that they're doing that. And then we also have some Zoho People news. They've done a nice little roundup for us here. Everything that happened in June with Zoho People. And really, you can generate employee health status records, kind of important during COVID. And you figure with all the HIPAA compliance, so they've got some nice stuff there. And then some improved document compliance.
Yeah, and Zoho People is an app that we don't often really implement for people. Most of our work generally ends up being around sales, marketing, operations, analytics, and things like that. But it really is an incredibly full-featured application. If you go out and look at any sites that compare HR tools, like Capterra is a big one that kind of compares a lot of these cloud softwares. I mean, it ranks up there with the market leaders in terms of HR software. So, more and more features always being added to it, and it gets stronger and stronger every month, it seems.
Yeah, it's a great application. HR software is a bit like a financial suite, though, and I think we are starting to implement more and more of Zoho Books and inventory and all the things around that. But those live in the realm of the bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper doesn't really usually want to make those changes because
Yeah.
they're locked into what they're doing. And that's the same kind of thing with Zoho people, the whole HR department. They're locked into the software they're using. They've been using it for a long time. And some of these HR departments, their onboarding process and all that stuff is completely baked in, and it's a whole process to move. We do see it with new companies that want to start implementing it, and like you said, great application. So worth taking a look at. Alrighty, and then moving on with Zoho News, we've got a roundup of the Cliq updates for 2020. The big one here for me, if we kind of go through it, is this ability to kind of drag and drop images and such from one conversation to a next and do that kind of sharing. We talked about some of these, but I think this is a really good roundup. And Cliq, for those that don't know, if you're familiar with Slack or any of these little inter-office communication tools that allow you to communicate with everybody in your organization as well as outside your organization, it's just getting better and better and better. And I think it's gone leaps and bounds during this pandemic as well.
Yeah, I think they're seeing a ton of usage of it as teams are kind of forced into working remote. And tools like this are just perfect for that. I mean, we talk about it, it seems like every week they're adding something new, and we get to do our little spiel here on how much we love Cliq. But, video calls, group texting, kind of anything you'd want to do to just stay in touch with your team, this is great for. And yeah, I really do like that that little drag and drop function there for attachments. One use case I could see for that is that oftentimes at Zenatta, right, we'll do little attachments with code that we have written kind of to share, like, hey, I found a way to solve this problem. I'm going to shoot that over. And so you can kind of just drag that into some type of group conversation or, archive channel to just have that whole backlog of these attachments. So it's really, really nice.
Stuff.
I mean, there's just week after week, it seems like more and more functionality coming to Cliq.
Yeah, and they did another little thing on this is if you're using Cliq a lot and you upload an image or an attachment and you made a comment on it, it was locked and you couldn't edit it, kind of like Twitter. But now they're allowing you to go ahead and edit this, edit your little comments that you do on attachments and images. So that's pretty helpful in and of itself. I've never understood that, Tyler. The whole no, you can't edit this thing. It's never made sense to me whatsoever. When these
You're locked
services,
in, Brett.
I know you post something up and you've got a spelling error, and you're like, oh man, you can delete the thing, but that's the extent. Seems like a little edit button wouldn't be horrible.
Gives you commitment anxiety.
That's it. All right, and then wrapping up our news, we have a bunch of marketplace extensions that were rolled out, and this is kind of a roundup of them. For Desk and CRM, there are others that I'm sure will roll out in the next few days. We'll introduce them, but we'll start with Desk. Harvest, which is a project management tool that we like a lot. We've actually looked at it in the past. It does some really cool stuff. That's now integrated. Lateshipment.com, WhatsApp, Sugar CRM for Zoho Desk. That's a pretty cool one. And then Twilio Bulk SMS and multiple number support for Zoho Desk. So 5 new marketplace applications for Zoho Desk, and a couple of these look pretty interesting.
Yeah, specifically, I think Harvest could be interesting because the big draw of Harvest, all these different project management softwares, generally, each one's got their own kind of little shiny object in there that makes it unique. And for Harvest, it's all about time tracking, really, in tracking time against specific projects. And so, when you look at Zoho Desk, you're able to create all those different time entries and track time against any tickets that are coming in. So it'd be interesting to see, if you're able to just kind of map that time and attribute it to a specific Harvest project, that'd be a really nice integration to have so that you can kind of track the post-fulfillment, right, when you're dealing with the tickets and the support against that original project.
Yeah, and Sugar CRM. A lot of people use Sugar CRM, and so to get that kind of integration is pretty big in and of itself. So only 5 over in Zoho Desk, but on the CRM side, man, close to 20, I think. Badger Maps, Walk Score, Piscio, and 15 more. Pretty nice. The Badger Maps one is a big one. And there's some pretty interesting stuff here. It's interesting. We actually have one of these is from a company called Commercient, and they actually have a Sage Mass 100, 200, 500 connectors for those ERP systems, and we're actually rolling this out for a client. And this whole two-way sync. And so this is something that they're just rolling out, and pretty good stuff. And then Clearbit's been integrated for a very long time over on Sales IQ. This is kind of takes your, if you ever look at record enhancement, it kind of takes that to the next level. It does some really interesting things around that. So just a whole bunch of new applications that have been rolled out, and some that I thought existed before. But others that it's just good to see as we continue to this whole development cycle now that the marketplace has been opened up and the development tools have been made readily available.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like day after day you see new ones added, consistently. I see in here as well, RingCentral SMS. It's now integrated as well. So previously you could only do your telephony from RingCentral, and it's one of the biggest providers, right, when it comes to telephony for Zoho CRM. I mean, the integration for telephony is just airtight. But one of the things that's always been missing is that SMS functionality. So if you wanted to have, the best VoIP system and SMS, right, you'd have to have a different tool to run your SMS campaigns and tracking all through the CRM. So definitely nice to be able to kind of centralize that along with the rest of your RingCentral implementation.
Yeah, this would be a good one to check out. It's a third-party application, so God only knows. But it's sometimes I don't mean that necessarily. I mean, I guess I do mean that in a bad way. I mean, the problem is some of these applications are fantastic, and really, until you get in and you get under the hood and you start digging through them, you don't know if they're going to work. And SMS and the logging of SMS seems to be the craziest thing for anybody to track. It's just been painful as all get out to. And we've looked at a few out there. It seems that Twilio, the solutions around Twilio seem to have it cracked the best. But you're right. I mean, RingCentral is just a rock solid. So I guess we're going to have to take a look at this one, Tyler.
Sounds like it.
And normally we, sometimes skip the old mobile app updates, but we have actually more mobile app news than we do Zoho news this week. So I've been seeing this a lot. Sign in with Apple is starting to gain a lot of traction. So for those of you that are familiar where you can just sign in with Google or sign in with Facebook, well, Apple rolled this out a few years ago, and more and more, I'm seeing this at a button every time I'm going to websites or various applications. And so of all the applications, Bigin now supports sign in with Apple, which I don't even know what to make of that. But that's a good thing. So they also had a huge blog post. If you go over to blog.zoho.com, they've got a really big article on Bigin, and it kind of gives you an idea of where the future of Bigin might be. So if you're thinking about, basic entry-level CRM, take a look at Bigin, and we'll see. I think you'll find some interesting things there. But so not much there, but I thought that was kind of interesting and worth pointing out. And then we also have got Zoho Projects, iOS mobile app, gets a whole bunch of new custom views for both tasks and bugs.
And so inside of here, basically, previously you were a little bit limited with the ways that you could filter and view your different tasks and bugs on the mobile app, right? You kind of just had to look at all of them, or a couple specific views that they would present to you inside of the app. But now they're basically opening up to look at any of the predefined or custom views that are put into place in your project's implementation. So super nice to have, because a lot of the times, the views really drive the way that people are going to interact with the system, right? And so when we say views, of course, we're talking about kind of the filters and different types of lists that you can create. So, looking at all tasks that are in this specific status, right? Or that are overdue and in this specific status, right? So you can kind of slice and dice your different lists a little bit better on mobile app now.
Yeah, and then over on the Zoho Desk app for Android, They've added the timeline feature. This is just super, super, super handy. So, if you want to know what's been going on with the client and their tickets, this tells you when it was open, when it closed, all the tickets that were open. So, if you're supporting a client on the mobile app, this is super nice. Great little feature that they added in there. And then in additional mobile news, we've got a bunch of stuff around CRM. So I guess the events module will now be renamed meetings. We've covered this over and over again, Tyler. Well, now it's happening inside of the CRM mobile app as well.
Always good to have consistency there. Sometimes we'll see little changes happening in one place and not in the other. So kudos to the Zoho CRM team for making sure that this rolls out consistently across all the different modes that you might be using the CRM.
Yeah, and on the back end of this, if you're not familiar, one of the reasons that the rollout was delayed inside of the CRM, the desktop CRM, is that the mobile application wasn't going to be ready for this, so they kind of had to get that ready. And it is happening. We actually have saw that on a couple of things here, right, Tyler? We're starting to get a pop-up I'm noticing in the CRM now that's saying, hey, guess what? We're changing the name of events to meeting. Is it on the 16th? Is that when it's happening, or the 20th?
Yeah, I believe so. It's coming up soon here.
Yeah, a couple of weeks, and that change will happen. Keep getting the question asked over and over again. What else is changing? And there's kind of been some mass hysteria in the forums about this. Nothing else is changing. They're changing the name from events to meetings. That is it. It's pretty straightforward. And also on the CRM app, you can now support multiple organizations and deep linking. Deep linking is really cool. So you've got, you can edit forms, check in, send emails. There's all kind of stuff there. In the multiple organizations, if you have multiple organizations under your one domain, you're able to see them. It's also nice because you can see your sandboxes as well inside of the mobile app. I was playing around with this a little bit. So some nice new features being added here.
Yeah, it's real interesting. I mean, you see just like a flurry of development right around all these different mobile apps. It seems like, a lot of the mobile, in terms of the world of CRM, a lot of the mobile updates have been coming in for Bigin. So good to see CRM getting a little bit of love here on the mobile end, because, at least what I've seen is more and more of our clients, they have sales reps that are, using the mobile app at least as much as the browser version, if not more. So you definitely want to be able to allow any of these types of functions that you can do over on the browser app inside of mobile.
Yeah, and then the deep linking, any URLs you weren't able to actually go out anymore. It's kind of nice. You actually can click to external URLs and do all this kind of thing. So some nice stuff going on there. And that brings us to our implementation of the week. What do you got for us, Tyler?
Yes, this one was a implementation that we built out, for a pretty specific use case, but I feel that it could be useful for a lot of different people. So basically, this is an integration that we built for Zoho Desk and Zoho Projects, and it kind of layers on top of a plugin that Zoho already rolled out. So basically, inside of projects, you have these items called issues or bugs. So they're a little bit different from a task, and they basically correspond to like something that came up during the implementation of the project or after the implementation. That's just something that needs to be fixed or tweaked, or customer support item. And what they have in their base integration is basically a little tool where from Zoho Desk, you can go ahead and add a ticket as an issue, right? So you can add one in as an issue or a bug into a specific project. But we found that the integration was just a little bit limited in the sense that that's pretty much all that it did, right? So it would take it, it would write it into projects, but it didn't really do anything else, right? So if I, let's say, updated the due date of that issue inside of projects, it wouldn't write back to desk and update the due date there. Or if I closed out the ticket or the issue in either desk or projects, it wouldn't close out the other record in the other application. So we found that though it was really nice to be able to pull everything into projects, it just wasn't quite giving them the functionality that they needed, right? Because if an issue's been closed out, we don't want someone who's working in desk to think that it's still open. So there were a couple little things that we can do with the integration. So for example, if I update the issue inside of projects, I can write in to a comment of that ticket inside of Desk. I can't make any field updates to the ticket or anything like that, but I can write a comment. So that kind of gave us everything that we needed, oddly enough. So we basically set up a little integration where, whenever a due date is updated to an issue in projects, it writes a comment to that ticket with, some verbiage and then that new due date, right? And then we wrote a deluge script inside of Desk that will basically read that new comment. And if that comment matches certain criteria that we kind of put in there to define what type of comment is going to hold a new due date, we'll basically parse out all of the text except for that due date. And we'll format the due date into a date time field and apply it as the new due date for the ticket. Right, so it's kind of a workaround, as you can't really do it directly with this integration. But basically allows you to reschedule an issue or a bug in projects and have that rescheduling reflect over into Desk. And then we also kind of tied in a little Zoho Flow integration where if the issue or ticket is closed out in either place, it'll close out the respective item in the other application. So we're kind of using the Zoho integration as a baseline to kind of make the initial connection. And then with a combo of some deluge scripting, some workflow triggers, and then a Zoho Flow integration, we're kind of able to take it over the line. It's one of those cases where we mention this a lot, that sometimes these integrations get brought to the 99-yard line, right? Or this one might be the maybe not all the way there, but
95.
Yeah, maybe 95. And so we kind of took it those last 5 yards to kind of sync those key pieces of information, right? Because it really just doesn't work for a lot of people to have to reschedule it in both places, right? Like you're going to forget to do that, right? Human nature is to forget. So, it's going to happen. Someone's going to think a ticket's overdue. It's going to be at the top of the queue, even though it's actually scheduled to be taken care of next week, right? So this kind of allows you to consolidate that to just making the update in one place.
So now that we've done all the heavy lifting on this one, and I know there are a lot of crazy issues around date formatting and all kinds of stuff around that, but now that's done, what's the implementation time on something like this?
It's probably a couple hours. It always depends on the specific use case, right? Because there's always going to be, a little extra workflow here or there to kind of match exactly how someone wants to use this. Any of these integrations, they have kind of a directionality to them, right? So, and that directionality is informed by the workflow. And what I mean by that is that, for this client, they want to do the scheduling in projects, right? So on our end, that means that I really just need to worry about pushing the due date from projects to Desk, right? But if someone wanted to set the due date inside of Desk and have it reflect on the issue, that would be kind of a different integration path that we would need to use. Right. So it always depends a little bit on the workflow, but it's just kind of a couple hours to put together the scripts and the flow integrations to kind of tie everything together.
Nice. Great implementation. All right, let's move on to our read of the week. I'm going to Zoho, Tyler. We're going home, going to Zoho. This is a nice blog over on the Zoho site. It's entitled Ways We Can Step Up to Help Small Businesses. And it's a nice read. They put it down as a 6-minute read. What I found interesting about this is it's a little bit all over the map as it relates to, what it's kind of covering here. It's not just about kind of how you can help small businesses. It also, Zoho's a global company. So they're kind of looking at this globally. So they've got a program that they're rolling out that's specific to an Indian initiative, and they're doing some really interesting things there. But they're also talking here about what's happening in the world. And, so they did a survey in India, and 50% of micro, small, and mid-sized companies are struggling to pay their salaries and rent. That's not surprising. University of California, Santa Cruz, 41% of minority-owned small business in the U.S. have shuttered their company for good. This is all because of the pandemic, by the way. And we've really avoided talking about the pandemic on this show, I think, for the most part, because it's one of those things that I think we hear enough about. But it's interesting, 67% of African business owners, according to the African Management Institute, they're they're just struggling. So, if you kind of go through and, Australian business is 30% have reduced staff, and, you look at all this kind of thing. So Zoho is basically saying, look, you know, what can we do? And they've done what they're doing. So if you use Zoho, you basically got complete relief on having to pay for Zoho. They still have extended their applications for free. Those offerings, I think, were extended into September now on remotely and those kind of things. So Zoho, basically, they're a software company, and basically they're giving their software away and making it available to anybody who needs it, especially for remote collaboration. And I think a lot of these companies might just say, hey, great, we're going to use that software during this time when everybody has to work from home. When we all come back to the office, we won't need it. So they've done a lot. But then they also talk here about, 10 ways you can support your business right now. And it's a little infographic. And anyway, I just think it's a good article, and there's a lot we can do. And as I see businesses around us here in California just starting to close left and right, I think there are 5 just around me that I used to frequent all the time, and they're gone, So
yeah, I mean, it's challenging times. It's a lot of companies, it's hard to have enough cash on hand to make it through, losing 70-80% of your revenue for a long time. So yeah, they kind of take a step here to give some advice of things that you could possibly do, trying to shop local if you can, buying some gift cards, maybe purchasing in bulk right now to use later if you can, kind of give them some cash infusions to help them stick around. But I have to say, in addition to giving some advice to us, I will say Zoho has definitely stepped up and walked the walk as well with those things that you're talking about with their subscription relief program, free product offerings. They really are, I think, using their position to try to help out in these crazy times.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just self-promotion. They're doing a lot of really good stuff. So anyway, great article, well done. There are 10 things you can do. Take a look at it. Support your local business, because it's getting a little rough. And as California closes down again, it's going to get a little rougher, at least here in the state. So as a good chunk of the country seems to be closing down one more time or scaling back its reopening. So we're not through this yet. All righty, now to more positive news, Tyler. On Zenatta this week, we've got 5 responses to objections. Nice little article, basically what you can do to kind of overcome objections in the sales process. We're starting to roll out a bunch of basic CRM tutorials that we're dropping on YouTube. So our developers have been saying, here are the common questions we answer all the time that people ask us. And so we're just kind of putting out a bunch of little videos. So how to convert a lead inside Zoho CRM, how to back up Zoho CRM. So those are the first 2. There's actually a whole bunch that are going out. These are quick little 1-2 minute videos that are going out. You kind of go, you get simple questions that we get asked all the time, and we're going to build a library of quick answers around those for you. And then we also found, as we continue our let's find everything Zoho has ever published that's relevant in PDF form and add it into our resources library, we found a CRM Blueprint Handbook, step-by-step guide on how to build a blueprint, and Zoho Work Release Beginner's Guide, which I haven't read, but since Zoho, but looks like it'll be a pretty good thing. So each one of these is really, really detailed guides to getting going with their products, and they're just buried everywhere. They're so hard to find. So hopefully, by putting them in that one area, you can just go to our website, click on resources, click on the product you want, and you'll find everything we've ever written ourselves, everything we've ever produced ourselves, and everything that we found that Zoho's done that's worth taking a look at.
Yeah, specifically the CRM Blueprint Handbook is really, really, really nice to get an overview of kind of why you might want to blueprint the process, and then how to go about setting one of those up, at least at a base level, to kind of guide your team through those structured processes in the CRM. So it's a really great jump off point if you're thinking that you might need a little bit more structure to how people are using your CRM.
And then for our application of the week, so much of this stuff is driven by client needs. There's an application called Setmore. So we talk about applications like this all the time. You might have heard, so we use Calendly internally here at Zenatta. There's another one called Acuity. These are basically applications that allow a person to go to a web page and choose the date and the time that they want to have a meeting with you. And it saves so much time using these things. And there's a variety of integrations for Calendly that are just kind of okay, and we end up having to write a lot of stuff our own. There's one for Acuity that's very good, and it runs $9 a month for you to kind of have that integration to get that working as well. And most of these, what they'll do is you'll connect your Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar, your Zoho calendar, if it's connectable, and it's going to look at your calendar, see if you're free, see if you're busy, and then allow that person to book an appointment during a time that you're open and available, and then they can choose what's good for them. So this client actually has a salon, for lack of a better word, I'll kind of say it that way, with a variety of services that are being offered. They were kind of offering a single service, and then they've expanded. And so whereas now, where before it was, well, I've only got X number of chairs and, I can have X number of appointments during that period of time. Now I have a variety of services, a bunch of different people delivering those services. And I really want to be able to have a person go in, choose the service they want, and just see the times that it's available for that specific service for them to come in and get that done. Looking around, and I found Setmore. And I'll tell you, Tyler, it's so good so far that I'm thinking we may move to it. And the pricing is ridiculously cheap on this. It is, and it's got free Zoho integration, and it's really good. And the Zoho integration was actually written by Setmore themselves. They wrote the app, but this is a really, really nifty application, and I can't wait. There's a lot to check out here, a lot to digging to do, but so far so good.
And I mean, applications like this are just becoming so commonplace and kind of core to a lot of people's workflows. I mean, whether it's for customer support, right, giving a customer a link so they can schedule a time with you to get some help, or even sales. I mean, we see more and more of our sales implementations, clients are coming and, they want services like this where people could book a time to review a proposal or to walk through some type of quote or, finalize a contract. So there's a whole bunch of use cases for this. And the nice thing is that it really just gives the client the maximum amount of choice. And it takes that process of emailing back and forth, right? And saying, oh, I'm free, tomorrow at 4, and then the next day at 8 through 12. And then they're like, oh, well, I can't do that. Can you do 1 tomorrow? And this whole back and forth where now it's like, here's my entire schedule, my entire availability, pick whatever is best for you. So it really does speed up that whole booking process in a big way.
And it gives you a great dashboard view to see everything that's going on with your entire team. So when I talk about great pricing, most of the Calendly Acuity, I think they're around $10 per user per month. This is $25 a month if you pay monthly, and it's $199 if you pay a year. And it lets you have up to 20 staff logins. And it synchronizes with each individual staff's calendar. So you talk affordable, this kind of takes it to a whole new level from an affordability basis. So you can have, this is just if you had 20 staff members, you'd be paying over $200 a month basically on any of the other services. So, and this is just full featured. So I'm going to dig in. We're going to do some integration. We'll play around with it. I just wanted to throw it out here this week. I've actually got another one I'm looking at as well. The other interesting thing about this app, they actually do live booking, and I don't know what the pricing is on that. Let's see if we click on see pricing here. Nope, you gotta talk to somebody to get the pricing. But they'll actually have someone answer the phone for you and book it all for you. So I'm not even sure what that would look like, but it's an interesting service that I haven't seen offered before. So anyway, worth taking a look at, I think. And let's wrap it up with our tip and trick. This comes from Zoho, WorkDrive. Man, WorkDrive's everywhere, it seems like lately, and the improvements to it are pretty good. So this is just 3 features that help you save time inside WorkDrive.
Yeah, it's just a couple kind of nice little ones in here. Kind of top of the list is converting files automatically over to WorkDrive formats, right? So if you're to take any type of file from Google Drive or maybe Microsoft Office, you can drop it in and just have things automatically convert themselves over to the proper WorkDrive format. It does handle other file formats as well, pretty handily, but you might want to actually kind of just set up that to standardize it and access any of the additional functionality that the WorkDrive formats may provide for you. They're kind of also improving the ability to manage sharing links and kind of get oversight on that. So this one's a huge, I mean, for quality of life, if you need to kind of manage who can see any of these different documents, especially if you're going externally, this basically gives you one page where you can see any type of folder or document that is shared externally, and you can actually make changes to those settings all on just one page. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see Brett kind of pulled up that view here where you can actually come in and see them all in one place. So that's really nice. I mean, hunt and pecking through a big file system is painful, right? And this allows you to kind of skip past that and just see it all in one pane of glass.
I just love that one. I think it's one of the just so cool to do that.
And then last but not least, if you are using Zoho Mail or Gmail, they've rolled out a little plugin and tool here where you're actually able to share files through your mail just directly using this plugin. So you don't have to go into WorkDrive and get the link and come back and share it. You can just pull up this little side panel that they have and pull a link directly from WorkDrive into your email. So that's actually really nice too. I mean, I could imagine myself using that. We have currently shared folders in Google Drive for any of our clients, and we store them in the CRM, and we've got everything organized in Google Drive. It's not too painful to find, but oftentimes someone might email and they'll ask, hey, can you shoot me that link over real quick? I want to upload some files, right? And so being able to just quickly grab that through a little side panel would be real nice, save me a little bit of time.
Yeah, it's great stuff. The Gmail one I use all the time. I love that plugin. It's good to go. So we still haven't made the transition yet. I actually wrote out to Zoho this week though have them send over everything we're going to need to do the full conversion over, the full migration, I should say, from Google Drive to WorkDrive. But they're there, and it's working exceptionally well. So kudos to the WorkDrive team. And that is a wrap, buddy. Good as always. I hope you have a happy 4th. We're recording this just before that. If you've got questions or comments, be sure to send them over to us at info@zenatta.com, or you can just head over to zenatta.com and click on Drop Us a Line.
And on the website is where I'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. You can also follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.